how to keep your acquisition specialist producing at an insanely high level. That's the topic of today's show. If this is your first time listening to the podcast or you have not been to our website, I've got a gift for you. Go to nextlevelwholesaling.com. And whether you are trying to scratch and claw your way to your first deal, or you're at the point and you're thinking, man, I've got to, get to that next level. I want to make more money. I've got to build a team. I want some time freedom. You got to go to Next Level Wholesaling and take the assessment. Okay. I created this thing to score myself in the 4 core areas of my wholesaling business. And I got to tell you, I've been taking it every single quarter here for the last 3 years. And when you take it, it's going to be abundantly clear. It's going to score you in those 4 areas on the very next thing that you need to work on to start to explode your wholesale business and explode your bank account. You're going to know about marketing, acquisition, disposition, and your profit. It's so important. You're going to love this thing, totally free, really easy to do. It takes about 5 minutes, nextlevelwholesaling.com. Take the assessment and get clear on your business today. So let's listen to today's listener question.
Yeah, this is Jared Frankham out of Lubbock. So I recently brought on 2 guys for acquisitions, and we went through the no limit system together last week again. And every time I go through that, I've watched it 4 times at least now, and every time I go through, I learn something new. But my question now is how do I help my acquisitions guys prioritize and focus, whether they're doing their cold calls or their follow-ups or even going on appointments? I've noticed sometimes either the appointments are unqualified or I just want them to have the best use of their time.
So great question, Jared. I tell you what, you got a lot to unpack here. So the first thing I want to say, congratulations, right? You've started to hire a team and expand. And so if you're at a point in your business where you're generating checks and you now have decided to hire someone, that's a big step. Now, you don't have to do that. You can be a solopreneur and make a lot of money in this process. But if you're really looking for that time freedom, hire an acquisition specialist is awesome. Second, I want to congratulate you for investing in yourself and your acquisition team with a no-limit sales system. And if you don't know what that is and you're a listener, I highly recommend that you purchase it. The price is embarrassingly low. Go to nolimitsalessystem.com if you're wondering what that is. And this is the exact system that I use to train my own acquisition specialist, front to back, with all the objections, the scripts, the tonalities, the situations, the techniques, the way that you can condition a seller to take your price, what to do if they ghost you, everything from front to back to how to gain confidence. It's really just an amazing resource. So go to nolimitsalessystem.com to purchase like Jared did today. So Jared says, hey, how do I keep these guys producing at a high level? So my recommendation is whenever you bring somebody on is understand that this person is an investment. They're not a cost, and they are a resource that you need to pour into. And every minute that you pour into them, you are going to be generating future dollars in the future, right? You're going to be generating a lot of future dollars. So training is going to be really important. So my recommendation is a couple things. Number one is you should, when you onboard your acquisition specialist, you should train them for at least a week through the no limit selling system. You should be listening to all the modules. You should be role playing. You should be going over all the techniques, okay, all of the principles, and you got to know them back and forth. And I had the benefit of working for Pfizer. It's a huge pharmaceutical company. And I asked because we were training a lot there, right? From morning until night. And we did it for weeks on end. And every, month we'd train on the phone, and every 6 months I would actually go to Irvine, California to train in person there. And then once a year, they used to fly me to New York for 2 weeks straight. And they used to pour into us week after week after week after year. And I'm like, Derek, that was my boss. He said, when does training stop? And he says, when you retire or you're fired. And, I was taken aback to it, but now I understand what he meant, because training is everything. So my recommendation is after you onboard them and they're on the phone is that you have a regular cadence to training people, because when you stuff information into somebody, they get it, but you quickly lose it. right? Have you ever learned something and then all of a sudden you dove back in, you're like, oh yeah, I forgot about that. So in our company, we train every Wednesday and Friday with a no limit selling system. Wednesday, we talk about our 3 hottest leads. And then we talk about the commitment that we made with the seller and the commitment that the seller made with us and when we're going to speak next. And we do that every Wednesday for every single acquisition special we have. And they do that for the 3 hottest leads. So that's a form of sales training. If we hear that they didn't get the commitment, well, then we go back and say, okay, what'd you miss? How you can role play that? How can you call back the seller and get that commitment so that you can get the contract? Fridays, we pull a recorded call. We listen to the recorded calls and we train on those calls using the techniques from the no limits selling system. So we listen to it, say, what do we do well? What can we work on? What technique could you have used? And we role play that. Then, okay, at least once a quarter, you want to have 4 hours of straight sales training. Everybody is off the phones. All distractions are off. No texts, no voicemails, no emails, none of that. Okay. Is that you get really, really focused because sales is everything in this business behind lead generation. Okay. So now that you're training, now that you're pouring into people and keeping them motivated, this is a consistent thing. Consistency is king, not the one-time training. You don't send people away for 2 days and expect them to be trained forever. Okay. Consistency day after day after day after day after day is way more important than one-time sales training. That being said, how do you keep sales guys motivated? Well, number one, that Wednesday meeting, always keeping that pipeline ahead of them. The other part about this, though, I'm going to recommend is that you keep them focused on their top 20. So what is the top 20? Well, top 20 is their top 20 leads that they are working on. They shouldn't have any more than 30. So it's a minimum of 20 and a maximum of 30, and they should be able to tell you what their leads are, have a list of those. Now, if all of a sudden that fills up to 40 or 50 or 60, they are not focusing on their pipeline. They need to trim that down so that they know who they need to spend their time on. Every single week that lead shrinks, right? So and then they're also adding leads to those. So now you say, okay, you only need to focus on these 20. So that's a way to also keep motivated. They start to see that pipeline. Also, we talk about every single week on our sales meeting. At the end of that, we say, okay, what's closing this week? And we have our disposition team on the phone and we say, how could we get these deals to close this week? How could we push it in and compress those timelines, not only on acquisition, but on disposition, right? You want to keep everyone motivated, keep cash in the front. But the one last thing that you mentioned is how do they know when to follow up and when not to follow up? Well, when you first get started, you may be resource restricted. And so your salespeople may be doing everything, and that's fine. They may be doing the cold calling, they may be doing the following up, they may be doing the sorting, and they may be doing the closing. And that is certainly okay to start out the first 6 months, 9 months, if you have to. But when I first started doing this, I noticed, turnover is going to be a problem with any kind of salespeople. So if you can get your closers to just close and not have to prospect or do a lot of the cold follow-up, right, you are going to win. So I did a podcast, I don't know, maybe 6 months, a year ago, called How to Make $1 Million a Year with One Employee, right? This is something we call an ADR, an acquisition development representative. And if you can get someone to get in front of your acquisition specialist to do all of the lead follow-up and really setting up of appointments, getting people on the phone for your closers, you are going to increase your retention of your people. You're going to make them more productive. You are going to keep them longer, okay? And everyone is going to be happier because acquisition specialists, salespeople in general, they just want to work those low-hanging fruits, right? They just want to work the smoking hot leads. And so my recommendation to you is keep them in that mode. You want them closing. If you're closing virtually, you want them talking to the hottest motivated sellers on the phone and then having them work with notaries to get those deals closed. If they're meeting in person, you want them out on as many appointments as possible. So for me, I want an acquisition specialist who has an ADR on a minimum of 5 appointments a week. You want it closer to 10, but you want them out there hustling and closing deals. That's really, 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 really important. So how to keep them focused on following up like that? Maybe the answer is for your rock stars, you don't keep them focused on following up on the database. You just have them closing and get them, you get them focused on the most important prospects. Now, That does not mean that they don't follow up on their 20 or 30, because they absolutely, as a closer, need to be focusing on those 20 or 30 leads every single week. Now, notice this is a cadence thing. Cadence thing, I mean that it's every week, it's a ritual, it's consistent, right? So on Wednesdays, we're talking about the 3 hottest leads that are coming out of their top 20 or 30, right? And you want to spot check that every now and then, okay? And then obviously Friday, you're doing the training on the recorded calls. You're also talking about the revenue coming in, right? And then you want a very good dialogue between your closers and those ADRs, the acquisition development representative. Okay, you want them talking all the time. Hey, what happened with this lead? What happened to that lead? You know, I talked to Mr. Smith and man, he really sounded motivated. How did that appointment go? And so you want to create like a quarterback wide receiver connection there between the two. And if you do that, you're going to decrease burnout. They're not going to be doing things that you're going to force them to do, which is brutal, right? And they're going to be happy and you're both going to make a lot more money. So just to review, number 1, good job on hiring somebody. Number 2, invest in the no limit selling system, please. NoLimitSalesSystem.com. Or if you have to, listen to the podcast and you can piece together a lot of the information through the episodes. It's going to take you a lot longer. 3, I would have that regular cadence of number 1, sales training on Wednesdays on reviewing your leads. And then Friday, I would listen to recorded calls and use the sales system in there. Then I would also consider hiring an ADR, getting in front of your acquisition specialist to keep them fresh and not following up on cold leads to decrease turnover. Everyone is going to make more money. Okay. And then finally, right, don't forget to repeat the process. So Jared, thanks for sending in that question. That was a great one. And it's a reminder of all the things that we've done in the business. We've come a long way from doing everything ourselves to hiring an acquisition specialist who did everything from trying to get them to force to follow up on cold leads. I mean, that was brutal, right? So now that we've kind of moved from this, it's just a lot easier from everyone. Remember to head over to nextlevelwholesaling.com, and there you can take the assessment in the 4 core areas of your business. That's acquisition, disposition, marketing, and profit. Very, very, very important to go do. Nextlevelwholesaling.com, and I will talk to you on the next episode.